Just face the wall.
Yeah.
You impressed? Kyle's got a lot of gear.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. Everybody has a way of sharing their story. Humans are great at expression. We've spent thousands of years inventing new ways to express ourselves. Some involve music, some involve sports, and others may involve writing or drawing. They help us cope with the bad times and remember the good ones. But not all forms of expression are something we do. They can be something we wear.
Ink runs down the needle strikes the skin, creates a penetration point. That ink that's on the needle goes into the skin. When the needle comes out, that pigment is held in the skin. It's a pretty basic but intense way to get pigment in the skin. It hurts. If it doesn't hurt, then you're probably doing something wrong. It's a tattoo.
Six. Did I have a rat tail? No, I think my rat tail was gone at 6.
I'd play with the dirt and the bugs.
I was homeschooled my whole life.
Bowl cut. Dorky.
My head was in the 90th percentile, so I looked like an alien.
Didn't have a TV in the house or anything like that, so we just like screwed around outside and like built forts.
Barely reached the steering wheel when I was getting my permit.
Before I went to high school, I kind of had like a punk emo phase.
And I played in bands, you know, all through high school.
My mom was like a hippie for sure.
I met my wife when I was 13 years old.
She really encouraged me to enjoy myself outdoors, and I think that's where it all started.
At 21, we got married.
7 years later, I'm here now.
The word tattoo comes from a Polynesian word, tatau, which means to tap. And it was a form of marking or skin marking that they used. So it's an indelible mark that people have left on their skin for various reasons. Some of them either warding sickness or tribal kind of things. It's been around and recorded for well over thousands and thousands of years. They found a primitive mummified corpse that had markings on it from 3,500 years ago. There's everything from traditional stylings to fine line, biomechanical, all these explosions of different fields of artistic elements that can be put into skin. You're looking at different types of machines. Besides just an electric machine, you got pneumatics, rotaries, and of course like tabori sticks, which are the Japanese style of hand poke, all the way to like the Borneo headhunters with their tapping stick methods.
When you look at old school tattoos, most of it was sailor tattoos. It's hugely linked in the military.
Sailors could traverse the world and they'd go into different ports. And they'd see these markings that these other cultures might have, and they were like, well, that's kind of interesting. And so they'd end up getting one. And every port that they would stop in, somebody might see that. And it fascinated people. And so it kind of, I think, traveled the world because of that. early American tattoos, a lot of them were black, red, and yellow. And you could mix your palette off of those, but that was predominantly the colors that were available.
Americana tattooing is a very bold, simple line work, which to date is one of the most esteemed type of tattooing. But a huge transition for that was when Sailor Jerry went ahead and combined American traditional with Japanese style tattooing. They're fundamentally pretty different. Japanese is more illustrative, they use more colors. In the actual figures, there's very little to no black, whereas American traditional tattooing, there's a ton of black. If you don't have a traditional tattoo without black in it, it's not a traditional tattoo.
Nowadays you have 256 different colors that you can choose from and mix off of those. You can achieve a lot more in a tattoo than you could, say, even 20 years ago. I think nowadays the mainstream of tattooing has definitely rose. It's evolved into a more modern electric kind of tattooing.
I'll get my clothes back on. Sounds good.
My name is Nathaniel Anderson. I'm 24 years old and I'm currently self-employed, just selling things on eBay. I build motorcycles. I had a buddy in Utah and he bought an old Honda 750. There weren't any parts on it that he could use, and so I told him I'd take it from him if I could drive out there and get it. I still have that bike, still working on it, and since then I've just been buying other motorcycles and seeing what I can do on them. I'm not good at it, but I like doing it.
My name is Sean Corbett, and I am a photographer, cinematographer, videographer, editor, jack of all trades when it comes to digital art. I think I'm lucky in the fact that my hobby is also my profession. I'm able to build my skill set for my profession while having fun doing it. It's like going to class, except you're the teacher and you mess up, you grade yourself, and you come back and do it again, and hopefully better.
Ashley Straub. I really like to fish. My grandpa taught me how to use a fly rod when I was about like 6 years old. So that's when I first learned how to cast. It's really taught me patience, and it's taught me how to look at what's around me and study those things and then use it to my advantage.
My first tattoo was a couple months into being a freshman in college in the dorms. It's a Chinese symbol, and I am 90% confident it means what it means. I went to the tattoo shop, said, this is really what I want, it means prosperity. And the guy said, well, before I do this, I have a source, go to this Chinese restaurant down on College and ask if somebody in there can tell you. And I went in, and sure enough, they went and grabbed a lady from the back, and she came out and said, yeah, that means what it means. Like I said, I'm 90% confident because she could have been messing with me.
My wife bought my first tattoo for me on my 18th birthday. It's this astronaut, which is actually the cover of Brand New's Deja Entendu album. So I always have to like that album forever now. My favorite tattoo is probably this pizza tattoo, because we just got it with a buddy and we just ate a ton of pizza and drank a ton of beer and then got that tattoo together. So that was fun. I got this astronaut and then I got Jesus tattooed on my hand, and that's just like my main dude. I grew up a Christian, always have been. And it was just kind of to signify, my commitment to Christ. And then I have Till Death, and I got that tattoo the day after I got married. And then I just got this because everybody has to have an anchor tattoo. As far as the reason I get tattoos, it's always just for the experience almost. I got tattooed in a dude's kitchen one time just because it was kind of, I wanted to get tattooed somewhere that wasn't a parlor, which I know any artist is gonna say is the worst thing ever.
Getting tattoos from your friend who works in his basement who knows none of this stuff is one of the worst things that you can do. It's so stupid.
Most of my tattoos, I never go in and pick what I want. It's kind of just, what do you want to tattoo right now? And if I like it, I'll just let them tattoo it on me. A lot of tattoos just mean you made a mistake. But I think they mean something different to different people.
A fox falls down a well and a goat walks by and he's like, wait, come over here, I'm in this well because there's a drought coming. You should come down here with me. So he hops down in the well, and as soon as that happens, the fox jumps on him and jumps out. And he turns around and he says, don't you know not to trust a man in troubles, and leaves the goat in the well. The moral of the story is look before you leap, or never trust a man in troubles. So that has a lot to do with me growing up. I don't necessarily have the best childhood. I'm actually adopted, but my mom, who I grew up with, is my real mom. She was in trouble, but she was in emotional trouble, and I think that kind of weighed hard on our relationship. I felt like I took care of her a lot, and then she did and said some things that weren't okay. I haven't talked to her in 6 years, and there's a good reason for that, I think. But it is the way that it is, and I'm trying to make it work now, trying to mend those broken bonds because she's my mom and because I love her, but at the same time, I gotta keep her at arm's length and protect myself.
Well, I'll just talk about one that's visible right now, which is my wrist right here. So this is a calendar, and the millimeters stand for months in my life. So 1 millimeter, 1 month. First date is 2 millimeters long, and that was in 2007. I had a brain tumor removed. I was paralyzed for 2 months, hence 2 millimeters. A little bit of time passed, but then I got engaged. And so for 10 months, I got ready for that wedding, and I told my wife that this would be the biggest one that I'll ever put on here. No matter how long something else lasts, I'll have a 10 millimeter bar here for our wedding. 2 months later, we found out that I have stage 1 cancer in both of my kidneys. It's part of a disease that goes along with the brain tumor from earlier. 1 month, 1 millimeter. Next event in my life, we found out that I have roughly about 20 brain tumors in my head right now, and we needed to treat those with radiation. We used a new therapy called gamma knife radiation, and they treated 4 of the really big ones. But with radiation comes radiation sickness, and so for 6 months I was pretty sick. I have one sitting here as a placeholder. I'm hoping it's something good. Could be something bad. Hopefully something good. You have one life to live, and just be yourself. Some people scoff at the idea. They, want to keep their body clean. I totally get that there are norms, and tattoos are not one of those norms. They're still very taboo.
Employers are worried about tattoos offending potential customers. So when you run a business, you might be working with millennials, or you might be working with more conservative elderly people.
Imagine you going into your doctor and having them with a facial tattoo telling you they're about to do a procedure on you. It'd probably make you feel really uncomfortable. But it doesn't mean that that doctor isn't capable or isn't probably one of the best doctors for you.
In 2011, Career Builder did a survey, and 31% of human resource managers said that having a visible tattoo would negatively impact their decision on whether to hire someone.
You're going to run into businesses choosing what they want to do what they feel like they should impose upon their employees. I don't think it's necessarily right. You look at it in a certain light as a partial discrimination.
People who want to express themselves through their tattoos also need to pick workplaces that have the environments that will support them. But should they be limited to those businesses?
There's a lot of corporations that are also changing that though too and are accepting of it. So, you know, I only think that time will change that, honestly.
The most recent Pew Research study is that 40% of millennials have tattoos.
There will be a certain point where there will probably be more tattooed people than untattooed.
We have a choice eventually that we're going to need to make. Are we going to accept people with tattoos, or are we going to accept a limited resource pool?
They don't have the time to sit down and talk to you if it's a first meeting and say, what's the story behind the tattoo, you know? They don't know that some of my tattoos have to do with the cancer that I have, which would open up a whole nother boat, which may actually make the relationship stronger, but they would never ask that.
I'm a pretty firm believer that, like, what's on your skin or on the outside bears no significance to, you know, what's inside.
We carry our stories everywhere we go, passing them along for others to see.
I think it's mostly just to remind me where I came from and remind me where I'm going.
Like those little moments or those big events that make us who we are.
It's not only that the generations now are getting tattoos, but it's also generations that at one point it was taboo are starting to realize that maybe it isn't so taboo and, oh, I can express myself this way.
Either we express them through what we do or by what we wear. It is what lies beneath our skin that defines us.